Welcome to the Wellness That Fits podcast, where we help busy moms eat well, restore energy, and clear brain fog without sacrificing family time or your sanity. I'm Cassie Greschel, registered dietitian and mom of three. I believe wellness should fit your real life, not the other way around. If you're tired of complicated wellness trends and want simple, sustainable strategies for meal prep, holistic nutrition, and time-saving routines, you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Wellness That Fits podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have on Danika Holt. She is the former Miss Wisconsin, USA, and a friend of mine. And Danika and I have had so many good conversations about motherhood, purpose, bringing faith into our lives. And so I'm so excited to talk to her today about all of these topics. So welcome, Danika.
Thanks for having me, Cassie.
Absolutely. So before we dive into some of these topics here, do you want to just share a little bit about your life right now? I know you've had some transitions, maybe some motherhood recap work, and what this current season
Totally.
looks like for you.
Yeah, totally. You caught me at a good time because I've had a lot of transitions lately in my life. I came from marketing where I was started to do more part-time work because of motherhood. It just wasn't really fitting for me anymore either, and actually just quit that. I'm starting to do real estate full time now. So I've always done that in the past 5 years or so, kind of as a side gig. But now I'm stepping more fully into that. It's giving me a lot more flexibility in my life and just really embracing like the season of motherhood. I have a 2-year-old toddler, so lots of boy energy and it's super exciting. And we're loving summer. We've already gotten to get into our pool 2 times this year. And I feel like I'm fully kind of embracing where I'm meant to be right now.
Yeah, I love that. And the boy energy is real.
It's like
Yeah.
he's 100 or zero. Like
Yeah.
it's not like 80%. It's literally all or nothing.
Yeah, I just feel like their energy is nuts and it's just never ending. And for a mom, to keep up with that amount of energy is just sometimes exhausting, sometimes a lot of fun, right? And so, you and I have talked before about just your style and how you're a high achiever also, like I am. And I sometimes wonder if it's just like, why do some of us high achieving women or moms, push through feeling exhausted at times. And it feels
Mhm.
like we're supposed to, like, we're doing everything right. I guess, like, I am curious to hear from you. Why do you think achievement can come with such a high energy cost?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. I think I just immediately was thinking like one thing that gets me through the day is not caffeine, it's making sure I drink all of my water. Just a side note, but if I don't drink water, I am so sluggish by the afternoon. But what I was actually going to say is I think that the unfortunate thing is as women, as a high achieving women, we are sold from a very young age that we can do everything and we can do all of it every stage of our life. And I feel like I've just finally come into a season where I realize that you can't. You can't do everything 100% in every season of your life. I think there's different seasons for doing the things. And that was a big reason for me to step back from my normal corporate marketing position because I was realizing that I was burning the stick at both ends. Even though I wasn't working 40 hours a week, I mean, my workload was extreme. And I was also still doing real estate on the side, trying to be a present mom, trying to be an amazing wife, and trying to take care of my body, trying to exercise, trying to eat right, do all the things. And there just came a point where you're sold, go to school, get the job, but no one tells you that having a family is a huge job and it's super important and it should be cherished and recognized. And I think just a high, being a high achiever, you think that you can do everything or you want to give 100% to everything, but there's a season in your life for each different area to be given 100%. I do think it's really hard for high achieving women to kind of step back and realize that, I did what I could in that season. And maybe it's just time for a little bit of a pivot or a little pause. And that's okay. And I just want, I think, the secular, like outside world to understand that that's okay. It can actually be a superpower, in my opinion.
I agree. It's so it's so hard, like you said, not only are we taught, right, that we can do everything, and personally, my mom worked outside the home, and so a lot of the role models that I have are working
Yeah,
women, and a lot of the women that I
same.
look up to, and then you get to motherhood yourself, and you're like, "Holy cow, I didn't realize how much my
Yeah.
mom did or how much my
Mhm.
dad did," right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot, and we are sold this idea, and even when I'm on social media, it's like all of these women saying how much you can do and how many digital offers and how many all of these things, and I'm just like, there's only so much time in the day, and at the end of the day, you need to prioritize what matters most to you and create some boundaries, but it's hard because I feel like when you have known your whole life deep down, like achieve, 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 no matter what you prioritize, it is a constant learning battle
Mhm.
to battle, like, what's inside of you or what's inside of your head to do more and perform better and I guess do more, really. And and really, I think it's just this shift in mindset that you are doing a lot for your kids, for your home, and that is okay. And just, like, finding, enough in that
Mhm.
season, feeling like
Yeah,
it's not just enough, it's amazing, you know,
it's amazing.
and in my
I
head, I'm just like, "That's not amazing," but it is, you know, like, you look at, like, what moms are
yes.
doing and, like, the, emotional tax, that it takes on your brain just to get through, like, a morning of, like,
Mhm.
being with your kid and
Yeah.
playing, and then when they play, like, you know, dispelling fights, at least, like, for me with 3 kids, like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just it's a lot. It's that emotional load is
Yeah.
real, and I wonder if you feel at all do you ever have the mom guilt? I feel like everybody has the mom guilt, but what does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that my son didn't sleep through the night until 16 or 17 months, so I've never had a good sleeper, so I I always would see moms and be like I would think about, I see them on their way to work and as I'm on my way to work and I would just like pass them in the car and be like, "Man, I bet she's like had a morning." Like, I get you. I see you. Like, I understand like I, only slept 5 hours maybe and made breakfast and lunch and changed diapers and probably played outside if it's nice out and did that all before I left the house and then like you little 20 somethings that come to the office saying you're tired, like, close your mouth.
Right.
But I do think that, yeah, there is a level of mom guilt, and I struggle with that a lot, especially when my little guy was very little and I had to drop him off at daycare, um, when I was first going back to work. Um, I didn't love my job, and so it wasn't even like I was leaving him to go do something that I also loved. And it just came to a point where I was like, I feel like I'm trading my time with him for a paycheck. And like I get like this is no shame to any moms that have to work because we also unfortunately live in a society where a lot of families where both people have to work just to have dinner on the table at night and it's super unfortunate and I feel so bad in those situations and I recognize that I'm super fortunate to have that flexibility and even just the flexibility in real estate knowing that it's commission based and things like that but for me personally there was just a lot of guilt in trading those hours with him for something that I didn't even really didn't fulfill me so from that perspective, there was mom guilt from, I felt like because I was gone during the day, I didn't even want to like say we wanted to have a date night. I didn't want to have a date night with John because I didn't get time with my baby that day. Or I didn't want to go work out because I lost hours with my kid that day. So I think you're always kind of mentally calculating like time in your head as a mom and trade offs. So yeah, I think it's just like a growing, ever changing thing. Like the older he's gotten, I also feel more reinvigorated to do things like this and pursue marketing consulting and take some time, away from him. But it's definitely a balance. And I think you just kind of have to figure out what your balance is personally. Everyone's is different. And I think, no balance is perfect, but it's kind of what works for you and your family.
Yeah, and in certain seasons too. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think no matter how much you hear about mom guilt or other people talking about mom guilt, I feel like there's no way to avoid it. There really isn't.
No,
Like, you're going to go
no,
through seasons where you're like,
something.
"Is this right? Let me compare myself to this person. Okay,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm done comparing, and I'm just gonna do what I wanna do." You're still comparing yourself to yourself, and I feel like, at least for me, it wasn't like this aha moment where all of a sudden this mom guilt is gone. It is a continuous struggle of wanting to be there for my kids, prioritizing them. And even when Zach and I are home with our kids almost every single night, literally,
yes.
he works from home and
Yeah,
we have a lot of flexibility. And even when we are home, I feel guilty when a grandparent comes and like I ask them to take them overnight. Like,
yeah,
because I have a lot of work to catch up on. It's still, I feel like, doesn't necessarily go away, but I think there are ways to give yourself some grace in that
totally.
you're trying to do what you love, not pour your entire heart and soul and everything you have into your family, which of course they're important, of course. But, like, showing your kids that there's more to mom's life than just them,
Yes.
and I think that's really important. I think there
Mhm.
should be purpose, community, of course, dad, right? Spending time with dad. Um, and it's yeah, and so I guess, like, any does anything come to mind of, like, maybe not necessarily say, like, what helped you get over the mom guilt, but more so,
Yeah.
like, what has helped you, like, cope? Like,
Yeah.
specifically, like, I know, I think maybe with your new job flexibility, that
Mhm.
could help. Like, what were some decisions or
Totally.
just things that made you feel more whole?
I think my biggest thing was just knowing that everything comes in waves. Like, newborn is just a phase, toddler is just a phase. And so the more present I could be in each moment, to me, that makes such a big difference. Um, and I think also just intentionality, like time you do get with your children, can you be fully present and focused? I mean, when I had more of a computer job, there was one day where I was like doing both, but it didn't feel good to me because my son just saw me on the computer kind of like ignoring him for the majority of the day. And I did not like that. So I think being more intentional with your time and what you're doing when you're with your kids, being screen free, being present and playing with them versus distracted, I think that's huge. So really, to me, is just like being in agreement and alignment with yourself where you want to be in that moment. I feel like even like in life as a whole, that's how you live life without having regrets, I think, is when you choose based on your present moment where you want to be. You can never say, like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I should have done this when you're like actually leading with intentionality and purpose. But it takes like a lot of self reflection to understand what that is for you. But when you're leading that way, I think you can make better decisions on a daily basis to support that intentionality in your life, whatever that looks like for you, me, Sally next door. It can look different for everyone.
Yeah, I love the reflection piece. I reflect a lot. I do a journal every night, or if I skip a night, I try to do 2 the next night, but I really try to take a look at what is energizing me, what is draining me, and then I write down
Mhm.
a little memory of each of the kids because
I
I
love
feel
that.
like I was not being intentional with the time. It was like I could get a few minutes of work done while they're playing, or
Yeah.
and I'm not saying
I
like, of
still
course.
do that too. Totally.
Yes,
Like,
like
I'm not a perfect
we get
mom,
that
but I
time.
still, or like I'm doing the dishes and I'm like, oh yeah, go do that. Like, I gotta clean, I gotta vacuum. Like,
Right.
it's still a balancing act.
Absolutely, yeah, and so even doing this journal every night, I knowing that, like, some nights it'll be like, "Okay, I really didn't have a lot of time with my second child,"
Yeah.
and then knowing that intentionally you can make that change the next day. You could
Yes.
literally spend 10 minutes of doing something, a game, playing more, like, literally anything. So, I think, I really think it's important to, like you had said, kinda, like, set your priorities in different seasons of your life. Like, I'm doing a retreat this weekend, and part of the retreats I always do is, like, set your priorities for this season that you're currently in. Like, we're going into summer, and I know myself that I I have more time with the kids for the summer, so I have
Yes.
3 days and then 2 days where I'm working. I already know I'm gonna be feeling the stress and the pressure to do more and do more, and while I'm
Mhm.
with the kids, and so I think it's important to, in those seasons, um get your mindset around what do I really want out of this summer
Yeah.
or like this season of my life, and
Mhm.
write it down and stick with it because you made the choice,
Yes.
right? And then just stick with the choice that you made and always pivot. Like in the fall, things are going to look different. If you didn't love how it looked in the summer, give yourself some grace and move on. So, yeah,
Another piece of advice really quick that made me your comments made me think of, I was just listening to one of Mel Robbins' podcasts, and she talks about how this I had to really quit my job, but I was like, "Oh, in hindsight, like, this is so" like, I went through all of these phases. It was like phases of getting out of your stuckness, and one of them was when you are sometimes it's just hard to make the decision, right? Like, what is my goal this summer? How am I going to spend my time? To get out of, like, that stuck mindset or mentality, she said, you need to make your decision. Like, that is one of the first steps. So, like, I coulda complained that I, like, didn't like my job anymore or the environment I was in, but until I actually made the decision to quit and do something else, I'm still stuck. And I have a habit or tend to think every decision is super critical and, like, forever. Like, like if I make a decision, that's the rest of my life. Like my brain just does that. Um, but she also pointed out like that decision is not like you can change again in a year. Or, once you make that decision, it maybe it's only gonna be like the right decision because you made it and then you did everything following that to make it the right decision. It's like a mental game. It was just super interesting to listen to. It's like, "Oh, yeah, duh," but to reiterate it and have it spoken to in that way, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah, and I think just to piggyback off what you're saying, I actually listened to a podcast recently, and you and I are both believers, so
Yeah.
I know like we value a lot of the same things.
Mhm.
And this podcast I was listening to had said something like, "You can make a decision," and a lot of us feel that like, "Is this the decision God wants me to make?" Or is this the wrong
Yes. Yeah.
decision, God? And like pray about it, right? Pray about it. Is this the right decision, God? Like, should I be going somewhere else? Guide my steps. But in the end, a lot of the decisions that we make are not necessarily like God breathed. It is literally like
Sure.
make a
Yes.
decision and
Yeah.
in how you do it, not what you do.
Mhm.
So it's not about
Yes.
the decision. Of course, there are some things like cheating on your spouse, like that is wrong,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
But like making a decision to do something, what it is more about is the how you live your life after that. So you made
Mhm.
a decision, let's say, to start entrepreneurship. How are you going to, be moral, be ethical, help people, right? And like
Yeah.
not necessarily like, okay, you left your corporate job, you could have done just as much good there, right?
Mhm.
It depends. Of course, it's different for each person, but it's like that to me helped me so much thinking like it's not like again, I was like you thinking like every decision I make is going to impact my life.
Yes.
And it does
Yeah.
impact it,
And
but
it
it's also
does, but
like it does. But it's also like if you're living in the how you're doing it to like praise God and to
Mhm.
love other people, like
Yeah.
that is what is most important truly in this life. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I didn't feel like the best version of myself earlier this year, and I think I am really big on, like, purpose, and I think that's what drives people in life, like, if they have a higher calling, a higher purpose, and, um, I think I just feel, like, more aligned with my gifts God's given me. I just feel like I wasn't being utilized how I needed to be utilized, and I think, what you're saying, if, whatever you do, if you're a steward of good faith and good work and, really being purposeful and intentional. I think God's given us all really unique, amazing gifts and abilities, and everyone's so unique and different. And I feel like I'm finally stepping into it, like a part of my life where I'm utilizing what He's given me a little bit more to align with the purpose I'm here. Like, work is great. Like, I love work. I love doing, work that's meaningful, but I also recognize, like, I have some gifts that God's given me, and, like, how can I use them to help other people? And I think at the end of the day, you're always happier when you're thinking about others and how, like, what you can do can, like, serve them in a better way.
Yeah, and actually I work with women too who have like, anxiety, stress,
Mhm.
burnout, mental health. And whenever we can take the focus off of ourselves, like sure there's mindset work and therapy and things that we need to do to work on ourselves, but when we can take that pressure off of constantly thinking about ourselves and our own situation, and this is what the Bible teaches too, right? So I mean it
Mhm.
is not only scientifically based, but it's also biblically based. And so it's just so important to think that, yeah, that piece of it is really is
And
really
you
important.
probably I'm sure, like, I mean, I definitely deal with anxiety. I was dealing with burnout at an extreme level, and, like, so much so I, like, didn't even, like I was just like, I had no energy to even think about what to do next because my burnout had just, like, gotten me. I'm like, I don't even have any, like, mind power to think about, like, what I do wanna do. But I feel like this is very, like, makes sense for, you helping women with those things is unfortunately, like, this world, I feel like teaches you all of the opposite, like, focus on yourself, me time, like, that's gonna, like, help you, and it's like, does it make me feel good, and is it, like, what I wanna do, and it's I think sometimes that has the opposite effect of what it should have on people.
Yeah, like, there's a healthy dose of it
Yes.
where we do wanna focus on ourselves, self-care, take care of yourself, be healthy,
Yes.
make small changes, but at the same time, really, serve your family and serve your husband and serve the community and help people, help those around you. It's really yeah, it's really important. Again, it's one of those balancing acts, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you have to choose, you have to choose, you come home from work and and a lot of those things you can habit stack, right? Like, you can take a
Yeah.
walk with the family, right? So you're
Mhm.
doing multiple things at once, but yeah, is there any examples that you have in how you can stay connected to your purpose without burning
Mhm.
yourself out? So you've made this switch, and now do you feel like you have thought about anything that you're gonna do to keep yourself from burning out or to keep yourself from feeling guilty in this change, in this transition?
Yes. Yeah, and I have a tendency to get my hands in a lot of different things at once, so it can be difficult. It's just 'cause there's, like, endless opportunities in this world, really. Like, so I'm always like, "Oh, what can I do here? What can I do there?" But I think just knowing my limits and where I, like, can be my best self. So, like, not extending myself with 45 hours of marketing consulting work a week. Like, is my season more like, can I get 12 really quality hours of consulting done for people? What are my time management shifts, I think is super important. Um, I he does go to, like, get watched 2 days a week, so I make sure, like, every time I drop him off, I go to the gym and make sure I have, like, a really like, 2 really good workouts a week. And then the other days, I'll try to do some random stuff here and there, but just being really intentional with, like, time management, I think is really important because all of a sudden, you could be sitting on the couch and, like, having coffee, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and like, "Oh, I didn't do anything with my day."
Mhm.
Um, and I think just knowing your limits, where you're your best self, where you can still show up for everyone and, like, have your cup full, but also not overextend yourself. I think burnout often comes from pulling from an empty cup, and so just having boundaries, and I think that's kind of a big step.
Yeah, and I think a lot of women struggle with creating those boundaries, but they are so important. Again, prioritize what's important to you in this season, create boundaries, what's not serving you, and then I think it's really just like being okay with the decisions that you make
Yes.
and being rooted in and bringing God into the conversation, right? And into the decision. And yeah, I think my word of the year in 2026 is Godfidence, and I'm actually gonna
That's so cute. I love
yeah,
that.
I saw it on a T-shirt and I was like, "Okay, this is like, I need
That's
to
fun.
literally bring God into, like, every conversation and thought and, as much as I can or as much as I think about it," and so that's kind of something that I've been trying to keep in the back of my head, and so what does faithfulness to you look like in this
Yeah.
season? Like,
It's
what
such an
yeah.
interesting question because ever since last fall, it's been like my goal to read the Bible from start to finish. I'm like went to a Bible-based school my whole life and, read the stories and all the things, did memory work. And I know it was just one day where I was like, wow, we were given like one book from, our creator. And what a shame it would be if it came to judgment day or like my last day. And I spent my whole life, which is a long time, and I never read the book, one thing he gave me to read. Like, it's really not that hard. But I struggle with it. Like,
Mhm.
it took me months to get through Genesis because it was so boring. They just like talks about like lineage and things like that. And I found that like I just had excuse after excuse not to like read a devotion or like we'll go to church and things like that, but I just want to make sure it's like integrated in my daily life. And I always look at seasons in my life where I don't know, your faith can like wax and wane. Doesn't mean it goes away, but you can have more like on fire seasons versus distracted seasons, unfortunately. And I think the devil like definitely preys on moms because they want you busy and distracted and not intentional and not in the word. And it's truly something I struggle with every day. Like I told myself like, okay, May, like 30 days, I'm going to read it every day. And I was good for like 10 days. And then we had a vacation and then I couldn't bring my huge Bible on vacation. And then I stopped. And so I think it's just like knowing that you can set goals and be intentional about it. Don't like knock yourself down if you don't do everything exactly how you want to be. But I do know in certain seasons of my life where I was very faithful and, very in the word. I look back at those seasons and those were my most fruitful and prosperous seasons of my life. And I just want to get back to that place where it's something that's integrated in my everyday life because it's easy to say that I'd rather go like binge a show on Netflix. And don't get me wrong, I do that sometimes. We like have our shows we love. I could have just read like 2 pages.
Yeah,
So it's just like doing what you can, knowing that like the rewards that come from staying in your faith and like staying connected to God in your everyday life outweigh like the struggle with it sometimes, but not perfect at it, not great at it even. But I just try to like, that's one thing I'm trying to do right now is like actually read the Bible and highlight little things. And
that's awesome. Yeah, and I think having those goals set forth right away, at either the beginning of the year, you can start
yeah,
at literally any time, but I think so often, we as humans, um are more on fire to go to God when we have problems in our lives, right? Like
yeah.
a couple
Hmm.
years ago, I was never more in the Word when I was struggling with anxiety and overwhelm, and I had a full time teaching job and my side consulting, and then also the wellness that fits business. And it was just like so much. I had so much anxiety, and I dove hard into the Word and joined some groups and did some devotionals with my family. And again, like you said, it was like one of the most fruitful periods of my life, and so it's one of those things like where in the struggle, and in the problems, God, produces perseverance, character, hope, and all of that. And so I think that it is really unfortunate that it comes down to the struggles to get us more in the Word, but how can we find time to do that in the joy and really or in the joyful moments of life. And I think, like you had mentioned, it really comes down to just prioritizing and being as consistent as you can. Because I,
Yes.
my faith, like, the daily walk with God tends to be what you had described, where you're like on fire for like 10 days. Like I have in
Yeah.
May, I'm trying to get through Psalms right now. And I'm like, for 3 weeks in May, it was going really great. And then
Yeah.
week is just not. And
Right.
so I think giving ourselves some grace in the seasons, and the times that we're going through and just knowing that God is always here. God is always with us. We can pick up where we left off. And what's really important is just like staying connected to Him and just allowing Him, to come into like our everyday thoughts. And even we might not be reading the Bible every day, right? Just like praying to Him daily.
In the
So,
car a lot lately, and I'm just like, there's like car time where sometimes I just like silence. I'm like, oh, this is a great time. Just have a conversation with him. I think too, people think like I have to go like, how do I ask for things? How do I like, what do I pray about? Like, how do I say this or whatever? And it's like, you can just talk like you're talking to your best friend. Like,
right.
there's no judgment. There's no like expectation. You can just literally talk in your car if you want to. And I just think making it more personable and like real and conversational for people too helps them understand like you can reach him like wherever you are, anywhere you are. And sometimes it's those little like car conversations that are more important and, move you more than, you know, me highlighting my Bible verses and all the things, which I do like, but
Yeah.
um yeah.
I agree. Um, man, I love a good podcast while I'm driving,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's like I'm
Yeah.
podcasting out, especially on my long drives, and I do the
Yeah.
same as you. I turn off the sound, and it's like, why would I not use this time, right? Like this, my goal
Mhm.
is to be more connected to Jesus, and so I do that often too, because just anytime you can introduce them and bring them into your life is great. So yeah, that is, man, that is so important. I think. Um, as high achievers too, it's like, how do we build confidence, rooted in who God says we are? And the more connected we can be with God, and understanding who we are, that we are his and he made us for a reason. And like it's okay to want to get better. It's okay to want to achieve, but that that our relationship with God is more important than our performance or than achieving. And so
Yeah.
yeah. I
It reminded me of something I was gonna say before too when I talked about, like, taking the leap to quit my job and things like that, and how you introduced me, like, Miss Wisconsin USA. I always have tied my value and worth in my life to titles, something I'm very aware of, like, I know that to be true, um, but it's also what's kept me being a high achiever, and achieving things sometimes so early in life can be really overwhelming, and so I was always like, what's the next thing? Like, whatever. One of the things I was most scared to like step away from is my title,
Mhm,
like senior marketing, head of marketing. Like, that was really like an eye opener for me because it just reiterated to me that I tie so much of who I am and my value to whatever title that like the world gives people. And so, like, especially in the last couple months, I've just and ever since having a baby, I feel like I've been way more confident after, like, having my son. Um, but I think tying your value and worth to a title is so silly. I've just really realized, like, anything I've done, any of my gifts and talents in, like, this world all have been given to me from God. Like, yes, I've stewarded them, I've, like, practiced and worked on those things, but Um, that's who I am, is, like, my inner value, like, what I can give people, not who anyone says I am or what any title says that I do. So
mhm.
that's been eye-opening for me.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. I tied myself to titles and letters after my name and all of the things, right? And it's, very, like, eye-opening and humbling to know that, and also peaceful to know that we are his. And I like how you said it doesn't matter what, the rest of the world calls you, via your title. It is literally like, what does God call you? And we know that we are his. And um yeah, I think that's so important to think about as much as possible, because we humans just tend to repeat the cycles in our head of everything we have been doing. And so, yeah, I just love that reminder from you. And man, I love this conversation. It is so refreshing, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I feel more inspired to go back into the word is from talking with people like you and listening to, making sure my podcast library is full of people who are Christ-centered and who are just really trying to help people and live their purpose. And so thank you so much for your insight and for joining us today. I think it's a really important thing, at least for in different seasons of our life for sure, but for me for sure, going into the summer and, just kind of changing seasons, it's always important to go back to the foundational pieces, like, of our nervous system, like, truly the nervous system piece of knowing that we are God's and that he is always here for us, and that we may try, and that is wonderful to do, but that, you know, we need to have that calm and peace in our
Mhm.
lives. So, it's a great reminder.
It
So,
is.
Danica, do you have anything else you wanna share? Just anything you wanna leave with
Man.
the listeners, or
Yeah.
just maybe what
I
would you
think
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think, it's I didn't know, like, our conversation today would go, like, so faith-based, but I think it's just, like, a testament to, like, all the good that's come in my life, and any season that I've come through, it would be, like, a disservice not to mention, like, that piece of my life because that's really what's gotten me through hard seasons, through change, um, and just any, like, obstacles, ups and downs is that grounding in faith, and the other thing I would love to share with people is that your value is not determined by others and your value is not determined by your title. It's not determined by like what the world thinks of you. And I think I always knew that to be true, but I never really believed it for myself. Um, and I just wish I would have believed it sooner. But
Yeah.
I hope a lot of girls like understand that that's value is like not based in the world.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do hope that listeners got that from it because it is the most important thing, right? Like we can talk about purpose, identity, high achieving titles, and just what you're doing and how you're transitioning, burnout, stress, all of those things. When it comes down to it, how do we really manage that? We can only do so much. We're humans, right? Sure, we can, like, as a dietitian, yes, we can eat really well, and it does impact the mood. And it's not like drinking water, like, helps you
Yeah.
be sluggish, right? Like, those things are so important, working out and therapy and all of that. But when it comes down to it, if we take all those things away, we still have faith. And um, yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation because it really just brings to the forefront what's really important. So, thank
Thanks
you
so much
so
for
much.
having me. Yeah,
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you so much for coming on, and like I said, really, I know the listeners just have gotten a lot of a lot out of this episode, and so, yeah, thanks again for your time.
Yeah,
I really
thank
appreciate it.
you. That's so fun.
Danica, where can listeners connect with you or learn more about your work?
So I actually just started a Substack. For anyone that doesn't know, it's kind of like a modern day blog, a little bit longer form articles. You can just find me at Danika Holt. Talk all about kind of like what we talked about today: motherhood, marketing, career pivots and transitions, and my personal Instagram page, Danika Nicole Holt. Yeah, so I'd love for you guys to follow along. And thanks so much for having me, Cassie.
Absolutely. Thanks, Danica. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Wellness That Fits podcast. I hope you walk away with simple, doable steps you can put into practice right away. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world if you subscribed, left a review, or shared it with another busy mom who could use some encouragement. Until next time, friends, keep creating wellness that fits your life.